There we go. That's a good snap. Okay, this is... It's the Paradiso episode. That's the episode this is, so... Welcome back, Film Nation, to a special episode of OK Bloomer. This is the one where I'm just going to talk about my trip to what unfortunately has turned out to be the last Paradiso that will be held. They did leave it open-ended. They said, postponed indefinitely. So that does mean that they may open it up to doing one in the far future when maybe everyone has had a chance to recover from the pandemic in terms of financially, mentally, emotionally. But they are going to probably continue to do some online events, they said, which I think will sort of help to maintain interest in the event. On May 27th of 2022, Paradiso sent out a message to all attendees, letting them know that unfortunately this year's Paradiso event would be the last one held. They cited not only that it was financial events, but also logistical events. As I mentioned in my History of Paradiso video, this has been a collaborative project with a half a dozen other states, but as we've been seeing even when we are preparing our own small event for our own local com to celebrate our com's anniversary, the logistics of hosting galas and things of that nature is getting harder and harder, and it is getting more and more expensive as costs rise across the board. Food costs are increasing, the safety protocols are increasing, cleaning protocols are increasing. As more and more cost has to go in just to run venues and facilities, they have to pass that on to their customers. The minimum wage in America isn't going up with it. Not as many people can afford to do the same things that they wanted to do, so the future is going to get interesting. And I mean that in all of the loaded ways that someone can say a statement like, the future is going to get interesting. I don't think we're really prepared or know what to expect for what's coming. Anyway, not to go on a downer note here. So we chose to fly out to Paradiso. I flew with my friend Rachel, who has done a couple videos on her own. She also helped with my January wardrobe video. She was my camera person. If I do misgender you, if you're in this video, I deeply apologize. Please let me know, and I will get back to the video and I will add in a correction if I can. We chose to fly out because it was roughly a 14-hour drive from Michigan. I already drive like 10 to 15 hours a week for work. That just seemed like a lot to ask for either of our vehicles. And I mean, she would have done it. I'm sure she wouldn't have cared. But I don't know, something about that. I feel like 6 to 8 hours is my absolute maximum. Our one friend, Kim, who also came from Michigan, she's crazy. And yes, you are, Kim, and I love you, but you're crazy. She drove alone in a rented vehicle, and she wanted to make the swap meet on Friday. So her crazy ass got up at like 2 in the morning, and she drove all the way into town. And she made it because she's a G, and stronger people than I. Our friend Brittany also chose to drive in, but she was driving from Wisconsin, so her drive was only 8 hours. So, and she did it alone. Y'all are crazy. I guess if you've been working from home for the last couple of years, it just seems, kind of like a nice fun road trip. So, different perspectives on how fun that would be. I wanted to fly. Tickets have gone up an insane amount since 2020 when we originally planned to go. In 2020, I think we were still going to fly because it was still like 14-hour driving. Fuck that. We paid, I want to say like $250 for a round trip flight, and that was a nonstop flight with Spirit Airlines from Detroit Metro to Kansas City. It was closer to $500 for a nonstop flight on Delta, and that didn't include a checked bag. Like, I had to pay $30 extra for my fucking bag. Are you kidding me? That's bullshit. Whatever. $500, and I was still like, I feel like right now with gas prices going up so much, I feel like that's still better than driving. So, whatever. And our flights were great, actually. We got to the airport, we got all checked in, everything was fine. I haven't flown since 2017 when I worked at a previous job in formal wear, and we had to fly to Atlanta for the big America's Mart. The Atlanta airport is basically a town. Like, it's terrifyingly big. Detroit Metro is also a very big airport. It's not as big, but when we flew to Atlanta, we flew from a different airport, a smaller one that's very close to my home. That airport is actually kind of cute, so I was hoping to just get a flight from there, but there was like some connecting flights. Like, there was one that was like, 30-minute layover in Chicago. 30-minute? No. You're not going to make that. You don't have the time. You can't do that. Or it was a 9-hour layover. Some of the flight planning was just ridiculous. It was like a 6 a.m. red-eye. We landed it. We got a perfect flight. I think it was at like noon, and then we would be landing, so noon Eastern time, and we would be landing at 1 p.m. Central Time because you gain an hour because of the time change. Our flight actually got in about 30 minutes early. It was a very smooth ride, no problems. They did run out of pretzels, though, which I really wanted some pretzels, but I had almonds, which was fine. Very easy flight, really relaxing. I don't mind flying. I think it's fun. I like watching the, going above the clouds. I think we were flying at I'm going to say 28,000 feet altitude. So it was fine. It was a great trip. No complaints. We made it. No one died. Now, the problem is that our Airbnb, we weren't allowed to enter until 3 p.m. So we had a couple of hours to kill. So we were like, okay, well, let's find somewhere to eat. MCI, Kansas City Airport, is fucking tiny. It's basically just a horseshoe shape, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, well, there's some restaurants. Well, all the restaurants, first off, you had to get through a checkpoint to get through them. So if you had just arrived there, they were like, you're not eating here. On top of it, there were some little stalls and things to the side that were kind of open and had sandwiches. There was one place we wanted to try called the Pork and Pickle, but you had to go up a flight of stairs, and we had 30-pound luggage with us. My luggage case is actually this suitcase, the wheels on it are fucked. They're sort of bowed out. So it was riding on those wheels, but it was riding on the inner rim, and then the bottom of the suitcase was actually dragging on the ground, so it was half dragging, half rolling this suitcase, so it felt way heavier than it should have. So I was struggle bussing. So I was like, I can't haul this goddamn thing up a flight of stairs. I just can't. So we said fuck it, and we went to the airport bar, because every airport has a bar, because people find flights very stressful. They find that land creatures such as ourselves define God by climbing into a thin aluminum can and pushing off into the wind, defiant of gravity's pull. Very stressful for some reason. So we went to the airport bar. They didn't serve food, which, because it was we'll get lunch. It'll be fine. Well, okay. There was a Burger King that was permanently closed. There was a California Pizza Kitchen, which, first off, I didn't realize that there were still California Pizza Kitchens. That was also permanently closed. So yeah, it was basically either permanently closed, we could have gone to a little Starbucks stall where they had some sandwiches and things, or you had to go through security to get there. It bit my ass. So we just said, fuck it. We went to the airport bar. We shared a celebratory drink that we were now there. Vacation was starting. We were ready to go. And we just kind of waited for a bit, which was fine. We ended up hobnobbing with some other people who were right there. So, and then we called an Uber once it was because our Airbnb was only 30 minutes from the airport, which all my life we've been an hour plus from the big airport. It's never been just a quick jaunt down the road. It's always been a fucking schlep to get to Metro, and then dealing with all of the exits and gates and connections and blibbity blue. But we called our Uber. We were like, hey, we need to go to this address. He was fine, but he wasn't sure where to drop us off. He was obviously we had suitcases, so he figured out, all right, they're staying somewhere. We're like, well, it's an Airbnb, and he was asking me for directions at one point. He's like, okay, well, is it this one? And I'm like, buddy, I've never been to this state before. I don't fucking know which one it is. So we finally found it. It was Quality Hill Lofts, and they had a 8x11, maybe it was a little bigger than that, sticker on the glass door at the front of their establishment. And it was just hard to find because there wasn't a big sign or anything. At one point you pulled up to a hotel called the Savoy because he was just kind of going in a loop. He was like, eh? And I was like, no. We splurged a little bit on the Airbnb, we didn't splurge that much. So I had to pull out Google Maps and tell him, and then we finally found it. So he was great. It was just one of those where, like, we had to put some brain power into it. We all had to, like, put some team power in and do that. So, and then, so day one, I'm going to call this day 0. So Friday, day 0, was the swap meet and the VIP pre-party. We all had VIP tickets, so that was pretty cool. So we went to the swap meet at, I think it started at like 4, and I think we got there around 4:35. And it was chaos.
And I did not get you in the shot, Kim.
I keep trying to get somebody with a fan. I'm like, anyone want to give up their fan today? Because I'm like, right? I looked at them, I was like, oh my god, it's 190.
I know. I'm like, I'm gonna die.
Their fan.
I packed a backup.
They were enforcing wearing masks, and they kind of had someone at the door to kind of check and make sure, like, hey, are you actually here for Paradiso? So that was good. And I felt underdressed because I was like, it was hot. It was so hot there. Like, it was 94 degrees Fahrenheit every day, but with the heat index and the fucking sun, it was, you know, your phone tells you, like, oh, the temperature is 94, but it feels like 100. And literally, it was like, feels like 100. And I was like, I'm going to die. We're all going to die.
Oh my god, it's like standing on the sun!
It was too hot. It was just too hot for anything. So we went in jeans to the pre-party. I don't know why I get phlegmy when I talk a lot. It's just who I am as a person. So everyone else was dressed up, so I felt kind of stupid. I was like, ah. But the swap meet was great. There was just a ton of great stuff. I got to see some of the meta plus size pieces in person, so I could judge for myself kind of how they looked and the quality. I ended up getting a couple things. I got a blue coffin ring by Neon Glass. It was actually broken. The glue had failed on the back of the coffin piece that connected it to the ring base. It was $5, so I've already repaired it with some super glue. It looks fantastic, so that was quick and easy. I found this cute little strawberry enamel pin that was $5, so I snapped that up because it was just really cute, simple little pin. And I also bought my first Triple Fortune item. I bought this beautiful Triple Fortune skirt, and the woman selling it, the person selling it, they were so nice. They were like, hey, you know, before I take your money, go ahead, try it on first, make sure it's comfortable. And it is crazy comfortable. Like, I was able to wear it at my natural waist and still stretch it out and still have like several inches of room. So I was super impressed with that. It's really long. It's about ankle length on me. So it's a bit dramatic. I don't know how I'm going to wear it, but I mean, yeah, it's really comfy. I did end up wearing it actually Sunday night to the after parties, which I will get to. Alcohol, my permanent accessory. Good haul there. There was a lot of great stuff. Tons of like dresses and jumper skirts. Not a lot of accessories. There were some shoes. There were a few bags. We had gotten there a little bit late, unfortunately, so we weren't able to see all of the good stuff. Like, from what I heard, basically all of the plus size stuff was gone immediately, which isn't that surprising. Yeah, we had a great time. Once we kind of were like, we were over it, we were overwhelmed, we'd kind of scoped every table out a couple of times, we all decided to go out to dinner. So we went with, Brittany finally was able to get into town, she left a little bit late. So we had her meet us at BareNaked Barbecue, which was in the Crown Plaza. We were gonna go to a place called Fritz's that is also in the Crown Plaza, and it's railroad themed for some reason, and they give you like paper train conductor hats, and we all wanted to go there for a hot second because Puvathel walked into the swap meet wearing this fucking train conductor hat, and she was wearing overalls with it. I don't know, I really thought for a second that she was intentionally wearing it, so I was like, yeah, okay, that totally makes sense, you know, a conductor K, whatever. So then we made a running joke of the train conductor hats, and we just snuck into the place and just grabbed a bunch and then left. We scurried out real fast, goofed around at the barbecue place, had some great food. So yeah, I could have had a little bit more barbecue sauce. I did try and scope out the Paradiso group because, you know, everyone always talks, oh, Kansas City barbecue, nothing like it. And someone had asked, like, you know, what are some good barbecue places? But unfortunately the answer was, well, if you want authentic Kansas City barbecue, you have to leave the city. So you have to go 30 minutes outside of the city, and you may not be going into areas that you would necessarily want to go while sort of dressed up. So I was like, this is good enough, you know, I'll be fine. We went back to the Airbnb because we wanted to help Brittany kind of get her stuff unloaded, and then we just kind of sat in the air conditioning for a bit. The one bitch with the Airbnb I have, and it's very minor and it's just a technology thing, was that they used a Nest thermostat, I believe it was, And so if it didn't detect anyone inside, it would set itself to only run the AC at 75 degrees. But if you were being a bunch of louses and you were just kind of laying there for like 20 minutes or whatever, or an hour, it would detect it as no one's here and reset itself to 75 degrees. So I'd be sitting there and I'd be sweating, and I'm like, why am I sweating just sitting here? And it would be because that fucking thermostat had gone back up to 75 degrees. So I was like, I had words with that machine. So we had to we just cranked that fucker down. It was so hot. But the Airbnb was really nice, like open floor plan, so it was very easy to kind of cool the space down very quickly. And they had a lot of great couches for lounging. Really, it was a really nice space. So it's probably one of the best Airbnbs I've stayed in. And I've only stayed in a few, and I was really happy with it. So besides the heat thing, that was minor. Because that's technology, that's kind of how it works. We went to the VIP pre-party, and we did some karaoke and made fools of ourselves, which is always a good time. I think I sang Barbie Girl with Rachel, which I don't mind. I was like, of course I'm going to be Ken. Like, it just made sense. She had some macarons out. She had some, I think they're called Madeleines. It's the cookies that kind of look like a scallop shell. So she had some of those out. And it was just like snacks and drinks. She had some lemonade. She had some sweet tea. She had some, I think she had pink lemonade or mango lemonade or something. So she had some mix and match. And then Suzanne, bless her heart, bless this poor person's heart. She worked her butt off this whole time. She'd overbought a little bit, and so she was just like, please take some waters, take the sweet tea, take the mango nectar juice, take the lemonade, and just get it away from me. I bought way too much shit. Now I have to haul it all back. So we had some mixers for the weekend, so that was pretty awesome. And then we got back to our Airbnb, and we just kind of laid around for a couple hours and talked and unpacked a little bit and sort of made our plan for day one. Alright, so day one. Day one was the day of the vendor hall. There was also some designer Q&A sessions, and there was also the fashion show. So with the VIP ticket, you got into the vendor hall 30 minutes ahead of everyone else. If you had the golden ticket, which only Patreon supporters had access to, then you could get into the vendor hall a full hour before everyone else. Unfortunately, due to the heat and just some time things, we were unable to... I should start at the beginning. I'm sorry. So we went out for mimosas and breakfast to absorb the mimosas, so that was great. I had this really good, basically a breakfast poutine, one of my friends called it, and she was not wrong. We went to Dot Boss Cafe, which was tied to the Indigo Hotel. It was kind of pricey. I think I paid $50 for 2 mimosas and my breakfast. And so it was fries topped with sausage gravy, crumbled bacon, over easy egg, shredded cheese, and thinly sliced green onion. It was really good. Like, of course it was really good. It was basically just a pile of sodium and deliciousness. And I only finished like half of it. And then I took the rest home because I was like, this will make a great breakfast for the next day. And it did. I was right. So then we had to get ready and hurry up and go to the vendor hall. I fucked up. And because I was smart and I packed a spare pair of shoes, some red flats. But I thought that I was going to be a bad enough bitch to wear my gold Baby the Star Shine Bright heels the whole day. No, I should have been smart and worn the red flats, and I should have worn my bike shorts that first day because I was wearing Meta Bloomers. They're like wearable, but after a bit, like, I still get like chafing and chubber in them. Those Meta Bloomers are done. Like, they got me through the weekend, but they need to be retired at this point. I think I'm just going to wash them and throw them out. I might salvage the lace off them to use for something else. I don't know, but they've had a good run. So what I should have done is I should have worn my bike shorts and my flats, because then we could have gotten to the venue a lot faster. It was actually super easy to get to the venues too. Instead of driving all weekend, which just seemed much more expensive, we took the streetcar. Kansas City has a public streetcar that just runs in kind of a big loop, and it's totally free from a grant, which is fantastic. It was very easy to take. They have a website where you can click on the various stops and it'll tell you, okay, here's the streetcar numbers that are going to be at that stop. It has stops on both sides of the road for both if you're heading south or heading north. So it was super convenient. So we took the south train in the morning to the day one venue, which was Union Station, which was the last stop on the southbound train. And yeah, it was super convenient. It's air conditioned, which was really nice. So I was misled about the topography, if that's the word I want. It is, of Missouri. I, for some reason, believed that it was part of the Great Plains states, which the key factor of the Great Plains states is that they're flat as shit. There were hills. We were walking uphill both ways half the time. I don't know how it worked, but we were. So, like, I was told that this would be a flat area, alright? I was led to believe in school that there wasn't shit, and it was just, bam, just a piece of paper out there, you know? Just a level surface out there. Just, no, there were fucking hills. And it was 95 goddamn degrees. And you're wearing your fucking lace tights, you're wearing your bloomers because you're a dumbass and you're trying to be full Lolita all day, all time. Your petticoats, your jumper skirt, your blouse. I was smart. I packed like a lighter weight bolero to wear for the day. Your wig. My friend Rachel actually ended up taking her wig off because it was just, the heat was just so oppressive on her that she like almost got sick. So I guess that's why they also call it misery. I don't know. I'm making fun of your state. I'm sorry, but it's happening. I make fun of mine all the time. So, you know, get over it. We made it to the vendor hall. I had every intention of like walking through the vendor hall, just doing a loop and kind of, you know, scanning the tables, being like, oh, look at these amazing wares. I walked in and just kind of entered into a fugue state. Like, I was so dazzled by the vendor hall. And it wasn't even that full. There was maybe like 20 vendors, you know, and there was just like a lot of people just kind of milling around, goofing around. So it's not like it was jammed ass like an anime convention vendor hall, but it was just, I don't know, something about it just like set me off. Brittany and Rachel fucked off to do their own things, and I just kind of wandered the spaces. I ended up spending like 5 to 10 minutes at almost every vendor's booth, just talking to them for a bit and being like, hey girl, how you been? Blah, blah, blah. Checking in with them. Talked to a bit from the girls from Pretty Princess Club. They're fantastic. They're planning on throwing Royal Vegas Retreat possibly in 2024 or 2025, depending on pandemic shenanigans. We'll see. But they were great. Talked to a lot of other great vendors. Talked to the Lolita Collective for a bit. It was funny because Brittany comes up to me at one point. She's like, how many times have you been through the hall? And I'm like, I was at my 4th booth at that point. I was like, I haven't even made it past this aisle. And she was like, what? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. And she was like, how? And I was like, I don't know. Eventually, somehow, I did make it through the whole thing, and I got some good stuff. I didn't get as much as I wanted, unfortunately, because we actually ended up an hour late to opening, and apparently when they opened, bitches just went ham. Like, someone bought $800 worth of stuff from the Triple Fortune booth alone. Like, she swept the bonnets. Okay, like, leave some for other people, but whatever, I guess. Which I'm glad about, honestly, that so many vendors did make so many strong sales. I bought some stickers and things, I think. I got a lot of business cards. I got some really cute new D&D dice. I did end up buying a pair of Triple Fortune over-the-knee socks that have sort of a under-the-sea aquatic theme to them. I got they have ones with mermaid fins and they have ones with like octopus tentacles. Because we have a meetup coming up in September, which is the history of Disney costumes and theater at one of the local museums. I had proposed, it would be funny if we kind of picked outfits that matched Disney princesses or villains. So I'm going as Ursula, and my girlfriend Rachel may go as Ariel because it's always been her favorite Disney princess anyway. So I specifically bought the tights for this coordinate. It's already together in my head, like it's already set. So I just thought that would be the perfect thing. Some things from Angelic Forest. I got a scented car hangy thing, technical term, and a Girly Gang themed notepad. And then I hassled her like, Girly Gang re-release when? And she was like, hey, I actually have a limited pre-order up on my website. And I was like, so of course I had to immediately go to the website, and I waffled like, what colorway do I want? And I ended up getting the dark pink. I wanted the lavender, but she was completely sold out of it, which is fair because the lavender is really nice. But I guess the dark pink is my second choice because I feel like you don't see it very often. I like how bold and in your face it is. And I feel like everyone kind of gravitates towards the white, which is fine. But I take a lot of risks when I wear white because my family crest is a food stain t-shirt. So I opted for something a little bit more in your face because I just feel like that print deserves that. A lot of people go with pale pink too, which is, again, it's fine. It's not my favorite. It just doesn't have the wow factor for me. You know what I mean? And the lavender, I think, everything on it was shades of lavender. So like the bows matched and the lace matched. And I thought that it just looked more complete of a design. Whereas the bold pink, the dark pink, it's got yellow bows up here to go with the pops of yellow in the print, which I think is a cute choice. The lace trim at the edge is white and not yellow, which I'm like, I kind of wish it was bright yellow. Like, if you're going to do yellow here, you should do yellow there. So I pre-ordered that. I bought a Sailor Jupiter can badge from someone because I thought, I like Sailor Jupiter. She's my favorite. And I bought a Sailor Mars one for Rachel because that's her favorite Sailor Scout. I don't remember everything about, like I said, I just kind of like wandered in a daze. I was just kind of like, money just flew out of my wallet and I ended up with stuff in my hands. So that was great.
Trying to film more, but it's hard. I keep getting stopped. Oh yeah, see, Triple Fortune's not even using a gimbal. Look at him. If Triple Fortune doesn't use one, I don't have to use one. It's fine. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here. I've already spent most of my money. So let's go spend more. Yes, let's do that.
So we finally left there. We hung out for Buvatel's designer Q&A for a little bit. Mostly it's just an excuse to kind of sit down and just kind of collect ourselves, which I think we needed. And then we all were just kind of like, we're hungry. So myself, Brittany, Rachel had already left at this point to go get lunch with some other friends. And so myself, Brittany, and our friends, Natasha, Courtney, Amber, were also sitting with us. They had also drove in, but they drove in together, so they were able to do it in shifts, which is a lot easier. And they were like, hey, we're thinking of going to lunch. Do you guys want to go to lunch? And we were like, sure, let's all go to lunch. And then we grabbed a sixth girl who just happened to be sitting with them, Marina, because she left their stuff and they were kind of guarding it. She came back, and I was like, I didn't want it to look like we all just decided to get up and abandon her. So it's like, hey, we're all going to go to lunch just in one of the restaurants in Union Station. You want to come with us? She was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll eat. So we wanted to go to Harvey's. I was making Brittany choose because Brittany has gluten intolerance, and technically I do too, but I'm still in the process of denying it when I want bread. And so she picked Harvey's, which was just a lunch place. And granted, there were 6 of us. We rocked up. It was $2:45, $2:50. And she was like, we close in 10 minutes. And we were like, what the fuck? This was the other thing about this fucking town. Time and business hours were kind of just made up. The fucking CVS, and I think maybe it just kept picking the wrong CVS location. We needed CVS, and it was oh, I'm open 24 hours. And we would go to it and be like, no, bitch, I open at 7. And then our friend Kim had to go there, and she made it there at 7:30, and they were like, well, we don't actually open till 8, even though their posted hours were 7 a.m. Time is a suggestion in Kansas City. It still passes, but just everything is, there's gotta be some city secret where it's oh, well, yeah, it says 7 a.m., but they don't actually open until 8 a.m. They just didn't tell anyone. The fuck? I don't know. I don't know how it works out there. Anyway, they were like, hey, we close at 3. And so we were kind of well, you're open and we're here. But in the food service part of my brain, I was like, if we tried to bum rush them anyway, 6 of us, 10 minutes before they close, that's a dick move. We all know it's a dick move. Let's not do this. So we opted to not do that. So we went across Union Station. It wasn't huge. It wasn't a total schlep. It was very convenient to Pierpont, which was a different restaurant that Brittany had kind of eyed, but she was like, I always pick places that are really expensive. And I was like, baby, I'm on vacation. I don't give a fuck. And it was kind of pricey, but honestly, the service we got and the food we got was really good. Made up for, it was worth the penny. But it was great because we approached the hostess, and she was like, so we don't technically open till 3. And we were all kind of just someone, let us just sit the fuck down and just drink some water. And put some booze and food in our mouths, please. Just please. We will give you money. We will exchange money for goods and services. Please, just let us commence in capitalism with you. And so she was like, all right, well, we can put you in a space inside, but you'd have to clear out right at 4:30 because we're expecting a party for that space, or we can put you outside. And when I say outside, she just means like in the Union Station. They had sort of an open eating area. So it was not really outside, but it was not like tucked away in the restaurant. And that was probably the better move on everyone's behalf because we might have got a little bit vacation mode at the event. So we got a little litty shitty, as I've been calling it personally in my head. Our server was Matthew. He's a fucking G, and I love him. Like, I can't remember what the drink was. I think it was called the Earhart Press or something, and it was like Sprite and vodka and some other stuff. It was good. It was very good. I had 2 of them. And then for my main, I had steak frites, so it was a 5-ounce filet mignon with your choice of sauce. I had it rare because I don't disrespect filet mignon. I had the blue cheese creme sauce, which was gluten-free. And the frites were just, the potatoes. It's been like one of the most comforting things about having to avoid gluten and bread and wheat products is that means I've increased my potato uptake. And I fucking love potatoes. Like, they're so versatile and great. Like, Samwise knew what was up. That's why he likes them. Like, bitches know. They also gave us a free dessert, which we probably needed. It was, I don't know what it was, but it was like 4 or 5 different chocolate things, like layers on top of each other. I think there was like a white chocolate mousse and then a milk chocolate torte, which is just a mousse with a different name. And then I think it was like a dark chocolate bottom, and it did have flour in it. So, again, Matt, total fucking G, worth every penny. I think we all tipped him at least 30%. He brought Brittany a bowl of chilled fresh fruit. So, strawberries, blueberries, raspberries. A total move. Like, amazing. And it was great, too, because he just comes out and he's like, oh, and here's just, 6 or 7 spoons for no reason, and sets them on the table. And we're all just kind of, and someone's like, oh, we're getting a free dessert or something, man. I was like, no, maybe they're just getting it ready for the next day. I was like, I don't know. We're in a strange land. There's strange customs here. Time doesn't exist here. It could be anything. I don't know why. I was like, oh yeah, just a pile of random spoons. Maybe that's what they do. Maybe that's their signal for get the fuck out because you're getting too litty shitty. I don't know. It was real. I had some. They also had the bread. They brought us out bread, which we were like, how much bread can we have? Because he brought us out like 2 loaves. And we were like, how much of this can we have? And he was like, do you want more? We were like, we need more. So he basically brought us out each our own loaf. It was pretty good. It was bread. Of course it was good. And it's like, look, I'm going to have it was like a nice split. It almost seemed a bit like a sourdough, but it wasn't as painful as sourdough is. I'm not a big sourdough fan. I respect the craft, but I don't like it a lot. But it was just, it was good and crusty on the outside and tender on the inside. And they brought butter for it. I only had a quarter of my loaf. I was like, I'll do this much and not anymore. I don't want to fuck myself up. Oh, God, it was so good. And poor Brittany. Brittany, like, what did she have? They had daily oysters, was what they called it. Daily oyster. You get 1. And it was like, what, is this like, an apple a day, but it's an oyster a day? So she had oysters and buffalo cauliflower, and that looked very good. The other half of the table, basically the entire other half of the table, got lobster mac and cheese, which I would have loved to have gotten, but I was making an attempt, and I wanted steak. I wanted steak and I wanted potatoes. Like, that's 24/7 steak and potatoes, that's me. Amber, bless her heart, she got their steak tartare. I'm not, like, I respect the steak by having it cooked to rare, but I can't quite do raw. Like, I'm not a strong enough individual to go full raw meat. I push myself a little bit. I don't know, it's the Midwestern bitch in me who's like, well, I just don't trust it if it ain't cooked a little bit, at least. I don't know why I did that accent. That's not Midwestern at all. She did steak tartare. It looked good. And what did he give her? She had, like, it was almost like a charcuterie board with the tartare and some other bullshit and some bread. And he's like, all right, and this is the butter candle. And we were all kind of like, the fuck is a butter candle? He's like, don't eat the wick. And it was literally a candle made of butter, which is legit because most candles are just made of waxes or fats, things like that. You know, in a bit of showmanship, you'll light the wick, and as the butter melts, you sop up the butter with the bread or something. I don't know. Anyway, she ate the wick because we dared her to. She was like, should I eat the wick? And I was like, do it. Because when I have a couple of drinks, I basically become a chaos goblin. He's like, don't eat the wick, or immediately like, eat the fucking wick. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like tequila. You eat the worm at the bottom. If you don't, like, you fail. I don't know. So she ate and we told him, we're like, she ate the wick, and he, like, on the outside, he was like, all right, you did exactly what I told you not to. And I could feel inside him just going, Jesus Christ, these women better tip well. And I even joked that the reason we got a free dessert was because he ran into the kitchen and was like, look, they have not had enough carbs. We need to give them something to absorb the alcohol that they've been drinking. Because what did Kim get? She got something called a French 57, or a French 75. It was something like that. And I think that she was drinking that all weekend. I don't even know what it was, but it looked fancy. Like it came in a fancy glass. Brittany had 2 glasses of Pinot Grigio. I don't know what the rest of the table was drinking. But yeah, it was a good choice of them to stick us kind of out in the Union Station instead of like ensconcing us in like a very nice, quiet establishment where we would have just turned into chaos goblins and disrupted the other diners. I'm very sorry to the staff at Pierpont. Thank you so much for the delicious food and the dessert. It was so good. It was so worth it. So then after that point, we were pretty good. We had all of our swag from the dealer's hall, and Rachel showed up back from her friends. She'd been trying to get an Uber back to the place, and she just couldn't get a hold of anyone. She came and sat with us, and she came in time to have some of the delicious free dessert. And she took off her work at that point because she just wasn't feeling super good. So it was just too fucking hot out at that point, and we had a bunch of junk. So we ended up calling an Uber to go back to our Airbnb for a bit. And it's not like a long drive, but it was sweaty. My feet fucking hurt. And we all just kind of wanted to go back and lay in the delicious air conditioning, which we had to tell the Nest to turn on and just not think for a bit. I think Brittany changed too at that point because it ended up she and like 4 other people were wearing Toy Drop Box, whatever the fucking print is called, which was hilarious, made for a great photo op, but it was also kind of like, no, 4 other people, unplanned. I don't know. Rachel and I were both wearing Mermaid Princess all day, which was fun. And then we had some snacks, and then we went to the fashion show. Started at 8:30, seating started at 8, and since we were VIP, we got right in the front. I think they had 12 different designers. I finally ended up, because, I bought a video camera, like a middle-aged dad, for this event, and I hardly ended up using it because my body was just like, do we have to hold one more goddamn thing in this heat? Even though it was very small and very lightweight, my body was just like, I was really torn between just wanting to enjoy the event and be a part of the event, and also, wanting to document. I did take my video camera to the fashion show and was able to film the whole thing more or less. And then after that was the Brilliant Kingdom concert, which was good. Like at first I could tell they were kind of nervous and the audio wasn't super good. Like the mix wasn't good. You couldn't quite hear them singing. But once they kind of like evened everything out, it was really fun. They did a performance where they pulled people up on stage at one point, and I was laughing at Brittany because VIP was like right front, right next to the stage. The stage was in the middle, and I kept nudging Brittany. I'm like, hey, you're gonna get pulled up on stage. She was like, no, dear God, no, my anxiety. So she got pulled up on stage.
Jesus, I was not recording the whole time. I knew it.
As did Prince Blackheart Ryan, who Rachel was kind of hanging out with all weekend. And I'm just like, yes, the human sacrifice portion of the show. And even Brittany, like, I think either she leaned over to the person next to her or they turned to her. And I was like, so is this like the human sacrifice part of the show? It was very fun. Everyone loves little audience participation. And they did kind of break it down at one point and just say, you know, it's been 3 years since we've last gotten to see everyone. Everyone has leveled up their looks so much in the last 3 years compared to then. We're so glad that we could make this 18-hour trip to see everyone again, even through lockdown in Japan, because Japan's still on very tight lockdown. So that was very heartwarming to hear, and that was really great to hear. So that concert kind of ended at like 10:30, quarter to 11, and I think at that point, we just went back to the Airbnb to kind of get some respite from the heat and to hang out and just goof around for a bit, look at the stuff we bought, and kind of plan our outfits for the next day. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I think Rachel ended up going out with Ryan to hang out for a bit, so she came in later in the night, but we just went back to the Airbnb and just relaxed. Day 2, the final day of the tea party. It was like, oh, yep, it's going to be 100 degrees today. I was like, fucking. The tea party was held at the Grand Hall of Power and Light. This is where they did have a minor issue because some of I can't remember where it was, but one of the social media sites that had the addresses of everything, it had the incorrect address. It had 330 Broadway instead of 1330 Broadway, so they just missed the one. So they did put out corrections as fast as they could on Facebook. We made it there. They were running a little bit late, so I don't think we even got in until like 12:30, quarter to 12, or quarter to 1. So we were all kind of waiting and lining up around the block. It was hilarious because, well, it's a busy street. So as cars would pull up to the intersection where we all were kind of wrapping around this building, they would stop and they'd be like, what the fuck is going on? And we're like, I was just telling people, it's just a fashion convention. Like, don't worry about it. And we got a lot of compliments, which was really nice for complete strangers to be like, oh my God, you guys look amazing. We're like, we know. Like, so the space was beautiful. Like a really, really gorgeous space. They had a beautiful upstairs area with windows and chairs for seating and gossiping where you could sit down and take pictures. The VIP tables were kind of around the main like staff and golden ticket tables. And so they all kind of formed a U and a horseshoe shape kind of around where the center area would be for the OG contest. And the food I thought was very good as well. They asked a couple of times, they were like, hey, food allergies. So they had a specific table that was for gluten-free things. They had these Peppadew pepper poppers. First off, fun name to say. Love that. I originally, even though I read the menu like a couple times and my brain still went like, I looked at them and was like, oh, okay. I mean, they're like, stuffed tomatoes. I guess I'll try it. I hate tomatoes. I hate raw tomatoes. But no, they were these really delicious, like tiny little round red Peppadew peppers, they're called. And they were very sweet and they just had like a little heat to them. And they were filled with cream cheese and topped with bacon bits. Oh, they were so good. And they ran out of them. But they had tons of spinach artichoke puffs, which aren't gluten-free, so why didn't you assholes eat those first? I had some of the spinach artichoke puffs. I also had some of the scones. Like, I had a half a scone. Because, like, I don't want to push it. I've been eating a lot of gluten this weekend. It was worth it. I don't even care. I'm not even mad. They had spinach artichoke puffs. They had some roasted veggies, which was, like, a vegan option. They had chilled avocado soup in a shooter glass, which starts out like cute. You're like, oh, fancy, like avocado gazpacho. Bitch, it was guacamole. Like, I don't even care. It was just thin guacamole. I still ate it because I was hungry. But if I'd known, I would have grabbed some tortilla chips at CVS. Like, I'm not even kidding. And I'm not, please understand, I'm not trying to dump on the Paradiso staff or the banquet staff at Grand Hall or anything. It was still very good. It had a little drop of like something red on top that made it spicy. I don't know. I'm not gonna, it's fine. It was hot sauce. All right. It's hot sauce. So it had some hot sauce on it. But I was just like, I'm eating it with like this tiny little Coke spoon that they gave us. And I'm just like, because it was all tiny, I'm like, this is guacamole. It was fine. It was delicious. I didn't mind it. You know, it was very refreshing on a 100-degree fucking day. But I would have loved some tortilla chips with it. That's all I'm saying. All right? Midwestern girl. Tortilla chips, you know, maybe some sour cream, refried beans, black olives, a little shredded cheese. Make a 7-layer dip. I want a 7-layer dip. I don't know. They had some things on crackers, and this was like kind of another hiccup that got mentioned in the group where they had some with and some without seafood. And someone with a seafood allergy almost ate one until someone pointed it out to her. And so they were understandably upset because nothing was labeled. And they were like, you know, this was an issue last time as well, where foods weren't labeled with possible allergens. And I guess it was an issue with the venue hall where they had promised that things would be labeled, and unfortunately they were not. There was also some fresh fruit, I believe, which was really nice. And they did, of course, give everyone a teacup and a packet of Bigelow bagged tea, so nothing like super extravagant. Slightly better than, you know, Red Rose. I only had like 1 cup of tea. I don't know, I wasn't feeling the tea very much that weekend, maybe because it was hot tea and it was 95 fucking degrees out. And yes, I'm gonna keep bringing up the temperature like it was anything anyone could control. And so I ended up just having mostly ice water the whole time. Brittany was balls, and Brittany had bought some Prosecco at CVS, and she had packed a bottle, and she didn't end up cracking it. She should have just cracked it. Like, I should have just taken it and been like, girl, I'll open it. Fuck this. You know, we're partying. Because in Kansas City, you can drink in public. So... But we ended up not. Maybe it was for the best. Especially considering what we did later. So, the OG contest was really great, really fun. I think all of the princes looked really good in their outfits. The person who won, like, it was kind of one of those where I was like, it's not really a contest. You could kind of see their win coming, I feel. I wasn't even super invested in anyone winning, though. And maybe it's because I wasn't up there and I wasn't really involved. I just wanted to see everyone have a good time. I liked seeing the outfits. Everyone fucking killed at this event. Everyone looked so amazing. And they were dressed to the nines, even when people had, like, a non-frilly partner come with them. They were also at least in, like, a nice suit or a nice dress or other garment. Everyone looked so good, and there was so much creativity in a lot of the coordinates. That was, I think, the most fun for me to see, was just all of the different takes on everyone's looks and all of the different ideas and creativity and the work that they put into their looks. So that was really kind of its own reward in a way, was just to see how great everyone looked. The young lady who won the coordinate contest, it was picked by Bobby and Kaye of Triple Fortune. Her look was actually rather toned down compared to some of the more elaborate looks that there were, which was surprising. But no, she had on just this beautiful, simple sort of robin's egg blue sort of dress. And I'm laughing at myself here because in the Paradiso video, I joke like everyone's going to be carrying violin bags for the theme. She had a violin bag. Her tights had music notes printed on them. So it was very understated, and it was very beautiful and simple and elegant, and it was on theme. So I liked her coordinate all around, though. I thought she looked great. We ended up taking a lot of pictures. I took several pictures with Puvathel. And we had a good long... I'm sorry, Puvathel. I started, kind of emotion dumping on her. Just about how important I think these events are and how I just want to keep, striving to do more of these events. And then I, started crying. And then I wasn't wearing a mask. And Suzanne was like, bitch, where's your mask? And I'm like, fuck, forgot. I'm sorry. I kept forgetting. I'm very sorry. I was trying to be more diligent about it. And I had a fugue state. I don't know where I was. I was out of control. We took a bunch of pictures upstairs. And the tea ended. They basically had to kick us out. They started, bussing tables and shit around us in the international symbol of get the fuck out. We have shit to do. So we did get the fuck out because they had shit to do. And that was technically it. That was technically the end of Paradiso. Oh, fuck. Am I gonna cry? Yeah, probably. But then there was the after party. Then there was the after party. So, and that was plain clothes. So I threw something together, fixed up my makeup. We laid in the air conditioning again for a couple hours. And then we went to, it was a place called Parlor. So it was a 2-level bar. And this was actually a really cool concept that I hadn't thought of before. Instead of a bar restaurant or anything like that, it was essentially the bastard child of a bar and a mall food court. And by that I mean, instead of like one dedicated kitchen, it had multiple stalls with different food kitchens that just had like a very limited menu. So on the bottom floor, I believe it had an ice cream place, and I should have gone there and I didn't because I'd been craving ice cream all day. And a Filipino place. And then on the second floor where we mostly hung out, there was a Korean place where I ended up getting a bowl of meat and rice. Like, that's what they called it. They called it meat and rice. So good. So good. A slider burger place, a fried chicken place that I think was out of chicken. A taco place, and I think they had like 1 or 2 other stalls. And so that was genius because, yeah, sometimes you're sitting there drinking and you're like, you have like 6 different people. Someone's like, well, I want just burgers. Well, I want like chicken tendies. Well, I want something else. So that was the perfect solution for alcohol absorption products. So I had a bowl of Korean food. We proceeded to get pretty stuff happened. We had a few drinks there, and we closed it down at 10. What bar closes at 10 on a Sunday? What is this puritanical nonsense? I think that's when bars normally close. I don't know. So we closed it down at 10, and then we went to the after party, which was like a block and a half away, maybe, at a barcade called Up Down, which is very exciting to me. So that place was really cool. We actually ended up hanging out outside. On our way there, we ran into a guy who was celebrating his 31st birthday. He was looking for his friends. He was meeting them at a different bar, but he like stopped and he's like, what's this giant crowd of people? Where are they all going? We told him like, oh, we're going to the barcade because we're celebrating an event that just ended. And he was like, it's my 31st birthday. We were like, happy birthday, blah. And he was like, you should come over here when you can. We're like, we're going to go to the place where there's pinball and arcade machines. And on the way, I ended up hanging out and talking with Emma, the leader of the Lolita Collective. She got me a peach cider that was really fucking good. I kind of actually want to know what it was because it was really damn good. And we ended up there until around midnight. At one point, there was pizza. This wonderful woman, Tara, she bought us a large pizza to share, an extra large. It was a big fucking pizza. I needed the carbs, so I had a slice. And we were all joking because it was so fucking hot out with the fucking sunset and everything that we were like, ooh, should we put this pizza back in the oven so that it'll cool down a little bit? I don't want it to burn out here, blah, blah, blah. You know, just being dumb. And so we had a good time there. And then...
Yo, Lemon! You coming to the after party?
Sure.
And then we finally ended up walking back. Kim, Brittany, and I walked back together because we stopped Kim off at her hotel so that she wouldn't have to make the walk back alone. And we weren't actually that far from our Airbnb, so we just finished walking the rest of the way there. I was wearing flats at this point, but we were still going uphill, and we were whining about the whole time, and we were just pouring in sweat the whole time. Like, I wasn't even hungover the next day, mostly because we basically sweated out all of the alcohol that we had imbibed. Or at least that was what we kept telling ourselves. So we finally got back. Brittany turned me on to jalapeno potato chips, which are fucking lit. So had a handful of those, I think. Had some Haribo cherry gummies. And then I laid down at 2:30. I did not technically sleep the entire weekend. I definitely didn't sleep that night. I might have slept for like maybe a couple hours. But it was like my Fitbit literally did not register me entering a sleep cycle at any point in the weekend. To be fair, a couple of those nights I didn't wear the Fitbit to bed because I didn't want to, but that night I definitely wore it, and it was just like, nope, you didn't sleep. And I'm like, So at 6 a.m., Rachel finally shows back up, and I had gotten up because it was Monday morning, and my alarm for work had gone off because I forgot to turn it off. So I had to get up and go and, like, turn it off, and she happens to come in the door, so I had to, like, razz her. I was like, young lady, do you know what time it is? She's like, bitch. I'm like, just fucking with her. So she got about 2 hours of sleep, as far as I know. And then we had to pack. And then we had to be out of the Airbnb at 11, which our flight wasn't until 2. Brittany left early because she had to make her 8-hour drive home. Rachel and I hung out in the Airbnb until 11, and then we had to haul our bullshit. And I was like, well, I had a couple of cafe places kind of set aside. So we ended up going to this one called Banksia, which was an Australian bakery and cafe, which I'm not sure what is so unique about Australian food besides obviously the stereotype of Vegemite to signify it. But no, it kind of had a light Australian theme, like it was run by people who'd immigrated from Australia. And instead of table numbers or order numbers, you got like an order animal. So ours was the gullah, which was a type of bird. And I got a slice of flourless spiced orange cake, which was very good, really delicious. And because, still on vacation, gluten doesn't count, I got a breakfast sandwich on English muffin, which was also very good. And I got an iced mocha coffee to drink. So that was all very good. And we kind of hung out there and chatted until about like 12:15, 12:30. And I was like getting kind of nervous. I was like, I know it's a small airport, but we really should be going because we have to do all of our check-ins. So Ryan, good soul that he is, gave us a ride to the airport. And we got there with some time to spare, and it all went fine. It was funny on the drive there. He and Rachel were sitting in the front. They were talking really in depth about, I think, New Orleans. Suddenly I'm like, shit, that was our exit. And he goes, sorry, I hyperfixated. And I was just like, does everyone in this fashion have ADHD or something? Because but it was funny. We made it on time. It was fine. I started crying in the airport because I was leaving and it meant that Paradiso was over forever. Our flight, we actually left like 15-20 minutes early. And then from there, we landed in Detroit at like 5 p.m. And then we had to take a shuttle to the airport lot where Rachel had parked her car, which this was actually really genius. She prepaid for it. She registered for a spot, and it's like 15-20 minutes from the airport, but it's a lot cheaper than the airport lots, so that was awesome. So she did that. We got back to her car. Then we had to get back to her house where I parked my car. And then I finally had to drive home, which was like another hour on top of the 45 minutes to her house. So it was a lot of driving still at the end of the day. And then I got home and my boyfriend was like, do you want me to take you out to dinner? And I was like, I don't want to leave the house for the rest of the night. So I think we just got we just got McDonald's. I got him a sandwich and I got a bunch of chicken nuggets, and that was that. And yeah, that was Paradiso. So, highlights. Everyone came to slay. No one was fucking around. Everyone's coordinates looked amazing. It was like just walking into a huge gathering of all of your best friends. And it was so great to see everyone. Like, the serotonin was up here, baby, all weekend. We had so much fun. I had such an amazing time. I'm glad that finally, after 5 years of this event, and after 2 years of this goddamn pandemic, that I finally was able to go. I finally got to meet people and see people. Thank you so much to Christian and Suzanne for putting it on one last time. I really had an amazing time. Other highlights? No, it was great. It was a girls' weekend. And I got to meet so many different people. I got to have some great conversations. There's this designer, Datura doll. I complimented her cut crease because it was fucking phenomenal. Her designs look amazing. Empire Noir, she was another designer who had looks in the fashion show. Her whole line was beautiful, stunning, very Bram Stoker's Dracula inspired, which I loved. A lot of great looks, and just so many creative people to spend time with and to talk to. It was an amazing weekend. It really was. Like, it was fantastic. Any downsides? There's always going to be a few hiccups with a massive event like this. And I say massive like it was tens of thousands of people. It wasn't. You know, it was maybe like, I don't know how many, I'd say a few hundred. So, minor hiccups. Obviously, like I'd mentioned, the food allergens not being labeled. But we did have people come by our table at least 3 different times just to double check, like, does anyone have allergies? And Brittany and myself, obviously, we cannot have gluten. And I'm saying, okay, this is the gluten-free table. And then we had another girl at our table who was part of our comm for a long time, Amanda Jean. She's like, I'm allergic to walnuts. And they were like, okay, well, we don't believe that there's walnuts in anything. The scones were brought from out of the banquet hall, so we can't guarantee there hasn't been any walnut exposure. But just be aware, you know, so sort of we can't promise it, but as far as we know, there's no, like they're not walnut scones. So we had a running joke of, you know, danger scones for the rest of the night, which was great. Any other hiccups? The heat, Jesus, you can't, I mean, no one can control that, you know. So that was just kind of a, you know, be smart, maybe strip down a few layers, no one will blame you. It's 95 fucking degrees out. The humidity, my hair was just a mass of frizz the entire weekend, which again, nothing anyone can do about. I was also like, I didn't have all of my products I like to use. I'd forgotten to mention at the pre-event swap party on Friday, and this is definitely on the part of Union Station. The VIP party was held at Union Station, as was the swap in the same room, and there were 2 ways you could get to it. And one way was from the ground floor of Union Station, where you could go in through the main double doors. You would then have to go down a set of stairs or a set of escalators, and then you could get to the hallway where the event was. Well, there was a young lady in a wheelchair who obviously couldn't take the escalator or the stairs, so instead we had taken a different entrance, like a back entrance, that had just like a winding ramp that kind of led to that room. Or not a ramp, it was just a winding path to get to that room, but it had been gated. So we were all just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, there was like 8 or 9 of us standing there, like, why are we not allowed in? Are we not cool enough? And then we were like, fine, fuck you. We'll just have our own swap meet over here. This is where the cool kids swap meet is. This is where the inclusive swap meet, you know, just giving them shit. But finally they were able to get a hold of someone from security who I think was kind of running security on our event the whole time. And she was able to unlock the gate, and we were able to get into the proper swap meet. So that was kind of a hiccup, but that was more on Union Station staff than anyone else, because why was that locked when it's an accessibility thing? I don't know. So, and it wasn't locked to begin with, but then they locked it? The restaurants just having weird fucking hours. I don't know what that was about. The stupid Google Nest thermostat constantly being resetting itself to 75. How dare you? The disrespect, honestly. All of these really are quite minor things. Like, there was nothing that was like a huge, major issue overall. Unfortunately, I did suffer a few, we'll put it lightly, we'll call it losses. I don't know if I want to call it losses, but there were some, I had some blips of my own. I had dropped one of my favorite blushes, a pretty vulgar blush that I had, so unfortunately that is now crumbled to bits. So I was able to secure it in a Ziploc bag to ship it home. I may get one of those makeup repair kits that they have where you crumble everything up really fine and then you put the mousse on it and stir the paste in and repress it. I might see if I can do that and get it back to one piece. I'm pretty sure I left a lot of like just random bits of like glitter and rhinestones all over the floor because I put glitter in my hair for the last day. To our Airbnb cleaning woman, I am sorry. My fucking Meta wallet, I bitched about this before, like, this was the second time I took it out. The first time I had some peeling on the bow, so I repainted the bow with some acrylic paint because I was like, I'll just reseal the whole thing, it'll be fine. It was not fine, so it's fucked up again. Like, boo, you whore. My current consideration is maybe I will just pop this bow off and either put a fabric bow there or glue a gem or something else in its place, just so I don't, because the rest of the wallet is fine, it's just the bow. Like, the rest of it isn't peeling at all, it looks fine. So I don't know. My AP purse held up. I don't know, it could just be because it's just different materials, I don't know. And then, obviously, my Meadow Bloomers, which I talked about. Theoretically, I could wash them and they'd be fine, but, you know, they've had a good run. They've got rips through some of the seams because I'm too chunky. And I'd rather just make my own pair of bloomers that I know will fit comfortably and just do that. Since the event, at least 2 people have been diagnosed with COVID, where they've tested positive. I took a test this week, as did my 2 roommates. We all tested negative. So we are good there. And yes, I kept forgetting my mask. I'm sorry. I was riding the high and I kept forgetting it. And that is something that I think that we're all going to have to consider for the coming future, is that this is going to continue to be an issue where these mass events, similar to Conflag, only literally, where it's going to be something where people do have to double check themselves, you know, even if you do everything you can to stay safe, like masking up and sanitizing. You're still going to have to test when you get home to make sure that you can self-isolate. At this point, I think that it's important to still take these steps, obviously, especially if you have vulnerable people in your home. But at the same time, I think that it's eventually we're going to acclimatize to it, unfortunately. And people are just going to accept that when they go to these events, they may catch COVID. Which sucks. It sucks that this is still a thing. I completely understand people getting fatigue over the entire situation, as I myself am feeling quite a bit of fatigue over masking up. I'm still masking up at work 100%. And it just feels frustrating to keep taking these precautions when there's so many people who refuse to. So it feels very much like beating your head against a wall. And it starts to feel almost a little bit unfair. Like, why do I still have to bear the responsibility of trying to minimize the spread of this virus when there's so many other people who are at the point where they don't care anymore? And there's some people who never cared, obviously, which is why we're still having this issue. Psychologically, I don't know. Maybe it'll get better over time. I don't know. Maybe we'll just get used to it. Probably. That's probably what's going to happen. We're just going to get used to it and just accept it like we would anything else for a major event, that, hey, you might get sick at this event with something. Positives of the event were just overwhelming. Just getting to see so many people in person again, and getting to do an event again, and getting to just have such an amazing experience, a once-in-a-lifetime experience. I had a great time. I really did. I keep for some stupid reason, I keep thinking, well, next time I'll be smarter. And I'm like, and then that line from that fucking Rihanna Eminem song just keeps ringing in my head. It's like, bitch, there won't be no next time. Like, I had to keep catching myself throughout the weekend, like, maybe they might bring something back in the future in like 5 years' time. I don't know. They haven't said anything to that, but I'm like, maybe it would make like a revival once, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I think at this point, as far as major Lolita conventions and events go in the U.S. anyway, it may be prudent to start looking forward to start thinking about hosting other ones, or at least looking at the logistics of it. I don't know what the solution is. I don't really have a good one at this time. I do think, and this was something I'd been discussing with Puva Hill, where I was like, I think these things are so important to keep doing. And yes, we can always ride the coattails of anime conventions and do those sorts of things, but I still think it's important to continue to push alternative fashion specific events, even if it isn't just Lolita specific, even if it opens up to general alternative fashion. So traditional gothic fashion, steampunk, menhera, things of that nature. If we open it up more to these alternative fashions, to start hosting more events like this, I think it's still kind of important, especially nowadays in these times when I think people need that escape and that whimsy. I think it's going to continue to matter, and I think it's something that we still should be pushing for doing and striving towards. So Yeah, again, my heart, million thanks to the Paradiso staff for pulling it off one last time, for throwing an amazing event, for not kicking us out, for being belligerent. Yeah, I'm really glad I finally got to experience it. Those are my thoughts. That's kind of my rundown. Did you get to go to Paradiso? Did we get to see each other? I know a few of you that I did talk with, you said, hey, we're subscribers. That was kind of flattering. I was like, big YouTuber. Watch your fucking back, Lord. I don't know. So that was great to see and to talk to people. Do you hope for more Lolita events in the future, regardless of the pandemic situation? Do you think that we should continue with the anime convention sort of, Shark and Remora sort of deal that we've always kind of had for a while? Or do you think that there's room for alternative fashion events to sort of stand on their own? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, please leave a like. If you have any thoughts, comments, anything like that, please leave a comment. I do try to read and respond to all of them if I think I have something of value to add. Please continue to wash your hands. Continue to do an at-home test if you suspect you've been exposed to COVID. Please keep wearing a mask. I know they're a pain in the dick, and I kept forgetting mine. Don't be like me. Please wear a mask. And get vaccinated. Get boosted when you can. Thank you for your time. Stay safe. What's great about this video is you're going to kind of get like a time lapse of my hair slowly drying and like shrinking up. So, I was not prepared for this, and I really should have. God, the sweat